You're all welcome to today's deep news analysis. If you care about Nigeria, justice, and power, stay with me till the end. This is not noise. This is not rumor. This is serious. Before we go deep, please subscribe, like this video, and turn on your notification bell so you don't miss real analysis like this. Your support keeps this channel strong. Now listen carefully. Nigeria is under fresh focus again. President Bola Tinubu. Justice Omotosho, the judge who handled the case. And the name that refuses to go away, Nnamdi Kanu. The African Union has set up a panel. Their mission? To look into possible errors in the life sentence given to Nnamdi Kanu. This changes everything. Let's break it down, step by step. On November 20th, Nnamdi Kanu was sentenced to life imprisonment. That decision landed like thunder. It did not come quietly. It did not fade after one day. It hit the country hard and stayed in the air. From that moment, Nigeria entered another tense chapter in its long struggle with justice, power, and trust. The judgment was handled by Justice Omotosho, the judge who presided over the case. His ruling was firm, clear, final in tone. A life sentence is the heaviest punishment short of death, and everyone understood what it meant. It meant the state had spoken with full force. Soon after the sentence, Nnamdi Kanu was moved to Sokoto Prison. The transfer itself raised eyebrows. Many Nigerians asked why Sokoto? Why the distance? Why the speed? The answers were not fully given, and in Nigeria, silence always creates noise. Supporters of Kanu reacted fast. They said the punishment was too harsh. They said the process felt rushed. They said justice was not balanced. On the other side, critics argued that the state was only enforcing the law. They said Nigeria must be firm with threats to unity. But beyond emotions, lawyers began to speak. Not on the streets. Not on social media. In calm legal language, they raised questions. Questions about procedure. Questions about rights. Questions about whether every step followed the law as written. That is where things began to change. This was no longer just a political argument. It became a legal debate. And legal debates do not die easily. Justice Omotosho's role came under quiet review, not as an attack on his person, but on the process he led. In serious cases, the judge is not just a decision-maker. The judge is the face of fairness. Every word, every step, every ruling matters. Some senior legal minds pointed to past court orders linked to Kanu. Others spoke about international law and treaties Nigeria has signed. Some mentioned detention history. Others focused only on the final trial itself. All these views formed one thing: pressure. Pressure does not always shout. Sometimes it waits. And this pressure waited until it reached beyond Nigeria. Then came the African Union. When news broke that the African Union set up a panel to look into possible errors in the life sentence, it caught many people off guard. This was not social media talk. This was institutional action. The African Union is careful. It does not move fast without reason. When it creates a panel, it is to study facts, not feelings. The focus is not to insult Nigeria, but to understand whether standards were met. The word that changed the tone was errors. Not protest. Not complaint. Errors. That word suggests process. It suggests review. It suggests that something may have gone wrong, even if unintentionally. For many Nigerians, this brought mixed reactions. Some felt proud that Africa was watching its own. Others felt worried that Nigeria's legal system was being questioned outside its borders. But the truth is simple. Once a continental body begins review, the matter becomes bigger than headlines. The sentence on November 20th was meant to close a chapter. Instead, it opened another one. A chapter where Nigeria must explain itself clearly. A chapter where Justice Omotosho's judgment is no longer just a local decision. A chapter where law meets politics, and politics meets global attention. No court works in isolation anymore. The world is connected. Decisions travel fast. And consequences travel with them. This is why the sentence shook Nigeria. not only because of who was sentenced, but because of what followed. The move to Sokoto Prison, the legal questions, the growing international interest, and now, the African Union panel. This is the foundation of the story. Everything else rests on this moment. And from here, the pressure only increases. The moment the African Union stepped in, the issue moved from local tension to continental focus. At that point, it was no longer only about Nnamdi Kanu. It became about the Nigerian state and the choices made by those in power. President Bola Tinubu sits at the center of that power. Every major legal and security decision now reflects on his government, whether he was directly involved or not. In matters like this, perception matters as much as policy. Once international bodies begin to ask questions, the government must respond with clarity, not force. Justice Omotosho, who handled the case, also became part of that focus. This is not about personal blame. Judges do not operate as politicians. But in high-profile cases, the judge's rulings become symbols. His judgment is now being examined beyond Nigeria's borders, not for drama, but for compliance with accepted legal standards. The pressure is quiet, but it is heavy. The African Union panel is not a court. It cannot jail anyone or overturn a sentence by itself. But its findings can shape opinion, influence diplomacy, and guide future legal actions. That alone puts real weight on the Tinubu administration. If the panel finds no serious fault, the government gains relief, but the scrutiny does not fully disappear. If the panel identifies flaws, even technical ones, the situation changes. Nigeria would face calls for review, explanation, or adjustment. None of these options are comfortable for a sitting government. This is where the tension sharpens. Tinubu's government is trying to present an image of order, control, and renewed authority. At the same time, it must show respect for the rule of law and regional standards. Balancing these two goals is difficult, especially in a case charged with history, emotion, and identity. The role of Justice Omotosho becomes central here. His judgment is the legal backbone of the entire case. Any weakness found in the process reflects directly on the system that produced it. That does not mean wrongdoing. It means accountability. International attention does not come with shouting. It comes with documents, records, and timelines. The panel will look at how the trial was conducted, how rights were handled, and how decisions were reached. These details matter more than political statements. Inside Nigeria, reactions remain divided. Some citizens believe the government must stand firm and reject outside pressure. Others believe transparency is the best path forward. Both views exist, and both carry weight. What makes this moment sensitive is timing. The country is already facing economic strain, security concerns, and trust issues. Adding legal controversy at a continental level increases stress on leadership. No president wants his early years defined by legal disputes that cross borders. No judiciary wants its decisions reviewed outside its home courts. Yet this is the reality Nigeria now faces. This situation has turned into a test of maturity, not just for leaders, but for institutions. How Nigeria responds will say more than the sentence itself ever could. The pressure point is here, and it is not fading. At this point, the story enters a new and delicate phase. What happens next will not be decided by emotions, protests, or online arguments. It will be shaped by process, patience, and careful decisions made behind closed doors. This is where the weight of the moment truly sits. The African Union panel is expected to work quietly and slowly. That is how serious reviews are done. They will not rush. They will not follow public pressure. Their focus will be narrow and direct. They will look at records. They will study timelines. They will examine how the trial was handled and how the life sentence was reached. Every step matters. The panel's task is not to attack Nigeria. It is not to embarrass the government. It is to check whether the standards that African states agreed to were respected. That alone makes this review important. When rules exist, they must apply to everyone, even powerful states. If the panel concludes that the process followed the law properly, Nigeria will gain a form of validation. The government will point to that outcome as proof that its institutions worked as they should. But even in that case, the national debate will not disappear. Too many questions have already been raised, and public trust does not return overnight. If the panel identifies errors, the situation becomes more complex. Errors do not always mean injustice was planned. Sometimes they show pressure, speed, or political tension. But in law, mistakes have consequences. A single weak step can reopen a whole case. That is why governments fear reviews like this, even when they believe they acted correctly. For the judiciary, this moment carries deep meaning. Justice Omotosho's ruling now exists beyond Nigeria's borders. It is being discussed in legal spaces that care less about politics and more about procedure. That level of scrutiny is rare and serious. It tests the strength of the system, not just one judge. For President Tinubu's government, the challenge is balance. The state must defend its authority while also showing respect for law and regional cooperation. Too much resistance could appear defensive. Too much silence could appear weak. Every response must be measured and calm. Inside Nigeria, the impact is already visible. Conversations have shifted. The focus is no longer only on Nnamdi Kanu as a person. It is now on how Nigeria handles sensitive cases. Citizens are asking whether justice is consistent, whether the law protects all sides, whether power bends outcomes. This case also touches on Nigeria's future standing in Africa. Nigeria is not a small country in regional affairs. It carries weight. How it responds to this review will influence how other African states see its leadership role. Respect is built not just on strength, but on fairness. The move of Nnamdi Kanu to Sokoto Prison remains part of the wider discussion. It symbolizes distance, control, and authority. For some, it was a security decision. For others, it felt punitive. The panel will likely consider context, not emotion, but symbols still matter in law and diplomacy. Time is another key factor. The longer this review continues, the more tension it creates. Silence can create fear. Statements can create reactions. This is why every word from officials will be studied closely. In moments like this, careless language can do more harm than silence. What makes this situation powerful is that it reflects a larger truth. Modern justice does not live in isolation. National courts operate in a connected world. Decisions are no longer local forever. They travel, they are read, and they are judged against shared standards. Nigeria is now facing that reality. This does not mean collapse. It means growth through pressure. Strong systems are tested. Weak systems resist. The difference shows in how leaders respond when questions come. In the end, this chapter will not be remembered only for the sentence or the panel. It will be remembered for the response. Calm or chaos. Transparency or deflection. Confidence or fear. This is the moment where Nigeria's institutions speak louder than any individual. And the path chosen now will shape what comes next, long after the headlines fade. As this story moves forward, one truth stands firm: moments like this define nations more than speeches ever do. When pressure comes, systems are revealed. Not by what they claim, but by how they act. Nigeria is standing at a sensitive point. The life sentence given to Nnamdi Kanu, the role of Justice Omotosho, and the attention of the African Union have combined into a single test. A test of law. A test of leadership. A test of confidence in institutions. This is no longer about sides. It is about standards. A country that believes in its legal system does not panic when questions are asked. It responds with facts, records, and calm strength. A judiciary that trusts its process allows its work to be examined, knowing that truth does not fear review. For many Nigerians, this moment stirs old emotions. Years of distrust do not disappear easily. People remember past cases, past promises, and past disappointments. That history shapes how today's actions are judged. But history also offers a chance to do better. The African Union panel represents scrutiny, not hostility. It reflects a growing reality where African nations are expected to hold themselves accountable within shared rules. This is not weakness. It is maturity. How Nigeria navigates this period will speak louder than any court ruling. It will show whether power listens to law, or whether law bends under power. It will show whether justice is a process, not a weapon. There is also a lesson here for the public. Loud arguments may fill timelines, but they do not shape outcomes. Patience, awareness, and insistence on fairness matter more. A society grows stronger when it demands clarity, not chaos. The outcome of this review may not satisfy everyone. It rarely does. But what matters most is that the process is respected and understood. Justice must be seen, not just claimed. Nigeria has faced moments like this before. Each time, the response left a mark. Some marks weakened trust. Others built it. This moment offers another choice. The sentence of November 20th, the transfer to Sokoto Prison, and the questions now raised have created a path that cannot be undone. The only option is forward, with care. In the end, the strength of a nation is not measured by how harsh its punishments are, but by how fair its judgments remain under pressure. When law stands steady, even difficult decisions gain meaning. This chapter is still being written. The words chosen now, the actions taken, and the restraint shown will decide how it is remembered. Nigeria is watching itself. Africa is watching Nigeria. And history is paying attention. What comes next will not just close a case. It will shape confidence in the future.